Okay, I want to welcome everybody to the Chapter 8 America Expands lesson today. And let me explain a few things to you. Uh, this is kind of a new style learning for me as your teacher. It's a new style learning for you as a student. But how things are going to go this semester. There's going to be a few lessons I'm going to refer to you to go online and be able to listen to and hear. And most of the time, it's going to be a simple task of your homework tonight is to go online and listen to this lesson. And as you do, when you come to class the next day, that's the topic we're going to be talking about. It will take away a little bit of the lecture time in class so we can spend more time doing some activities and working to understand the main concepts. Let's start today in Chapter 8, and let's start our story of Chapter 8 with the election of 1800. Now, we're discussing the election of 1800 right now in class. And by the time you listen to this, we will have had a pretty good discussion about this rivalry between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. These guys did not like each other. It was a highly contested election. And as you can see, the two candidates were Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. Adams, on one side, was a member of the Federalist Party. It was ruled by the wealthy. They believed in this idea of a big, strong federal government. And the one thing that's really important is that they had a very loose interpretation of the Constitution. They kind of saw it as a guideline, a suggestion. And Adams had an allegiance or an alliance with Britain. Jefferson, on the other hand, was a member of the Democratic Republican Party. Now, that's separate from what we know today as Democrats and Republicans. He wanted the country to be ruled by the people. He's a John Locke philosophy guy. The whole idea of popular sovereignty, that people have the right to govern themselves. He believed that the state government should have more strength, and he conversely wanted to strictly interpret the Constitution. It says what it says. Now, keep in mind, Jefferson was friends with a lot of the guys who wrote the Constitution. He, unlike Adams, had more of an alliance to the French. Now, this idea of British versus French is going to be a big deal. Keep in mind, we had just fought the British a couple of years ago to gain our independence, and the one group that came to our aid and really helped us were the French. So the new issue after 1800 and the election of 1800 is going to become this area west of the Mississippi. During this time period, Spain owns this Louisiana Territory. The United States really just wants control of one part of it, and that's New Orleans. And as you can see, New Orleans, which is in this region right here, has access to the Gulf of Mexico, which allows you to get out into the Atlantic. For the U.S. merchants, the idea was this would really help them be able to move their goods and trade with other countries. Spain was getting annoyed with the Americans. The Americans were coming across the Mississippi. They were settling into Spanish territory illegally, but they were happening so much, basically crossing the border illegally, these Americans were, that the Spanish were just kind of at the point where, like, we're not going to deal with them. It's just too much of a headache to even deal with them. So New Orleans is the main issue. Can the United States get control of this major port? Well, Spain didn't really like the United States, and we've got some bad relations already with our neighbors to the west. And when I say west, I mean like west of Memphis. Today we think of the west, we think of California. At this point in history, Memphis was like the Los Angeles of its time in terms of geography. Well, so Napoleon, the leader of France, gets into the mix. And he decides that he's going to trade with Spain to pick up this Louisiana territory. And what we would later call the Louisiana Purchase. Napoleon wanted to take the area, and he wanted to make France in North America, a new France. Here's a picture of Napoleon, and I cannot really necessarily, for 100%, tell you why he puts his hand in his jacket as so. Many historians think it was a move at the time to show dominance and power. Thomas Jefferson here, our third president and the winner of the highly contested 1800 election, has a vision for New Orleans. Jefferson wants to make New Orleans an American port. He wants to purchase it from France, their new owners. Now remember, Jefferson and France got along. This probably never would have been thought of or happened if Adams had won the election in 1800. However, Napoleon really wants to create this New Orleans, this new France idea, and he wants to start it by having this territory that he just got from Spain in North America. However, he's got one part to his plan he has to make sure works, and that's down here in Haiti. Napoleon controls Haiti, and Napoleon wants to use Haiti as kind of a supply depot. We're going to put our supplies and build forts in Haiti, and from Haiti we'll move over into the Louisiana Territory. Well, the people that they've enslaved, the Haitians, and the people that they've brought over, the slaves who are working this land in Haiti, they're not down with this idea at all. So, as a matter of fact, they start a revolt against Napoleon and against his army. And as a result, Napoleon basically loses the island, loses control. Now France is interested in selling the New Orleans territory because Napoleon's plans really aren't going to work out like he'd hoped. This kind of gives you an artist's depiction of the revolt in Haiti against the French. So, Jefferson gets his opportunity. In fact, we, the United States, go to France and we say, hey, we'd like to buy New Orleans. And France surprisingly says, how about you just buy the whole territory? Well, if the price is right, we're going to. So Jefferson buys the Louisiana Territory for $15 million. And in today's money, $15 million is a really, really cheap price to buy that much land. But even back then, it wasn't that expensive. It was 3 cents per acre. This is a picture of what the Louisiana Territory, and exactly when I say Louisiana Territory, is talking about. It starts down here in New Orleans in the mouth of the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River is the eastern border. The Red River, which comes across Louisiana, across Texas, would be the southern border. And then the Colorado Rockies would be the western border. This region over here would still be controlled by Spain. This region above is controlled by Great Britain. Everything east of the Mississippi are lands that have been taken over by the United States. There's going to be some arguments and some issues in this region right here with Native Americans. And a lot of the Native American tribes are going to be kind of put to the challenge of coming after the United States by the British here. And we'll get into that in the next lesson. We're also going to talk about the exploration of this area here by a fairly famous group of explorers, Lewis and Clark, but more importantly, their most famous guide, Sacagawea. So the next time you tune in, that's what we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about the Lewis and Clark expedition a little bit. I hope you enjoyed this, and please remember to watch it again, roll it back. I went a little bit longer than 7 minutes, but it's the first time around, and I look forward to learning with you and continuing to do this the rest of the semester. All right, have a great day.